Hello everybody, and welcome to the next in the series of GCSE and A-level Poetry analysis, which is everything you need to know about Anthem from Doomed Youth by Wilfred Owen. The aim of this short video is to give you all you need quickly and easily so that you can complete your essays, your analysis to the very highest standard. Okay, so here's a brief bit of biographical information about Wilfred Owen. Obviously pause this, feel free to add any of these notes to your analysis for historical context. It's also worth bearing in mind that Anthem from Doomed Youth is a poem which Sassoon helped Owen with. And in fact, there is even records of Sassoon's notes on the poem. So please pause this, add the notes that you wish, and then continue. Okay, so here's the poem itself. I'm not going to read this to you now, that's not the point of this video. You should already have read this 2, 3, 4 times. You should already have your own notes of annotation. All we're doing now is supplementing those notes. So the basic meaning for Anthem and Doomed Youth. Essentially, Owen is asking the reader to consider what sort of funeral can these dead soldiers expect, and the answer is that this funeral is very different and somewhat unholy in comparison to the more religious and safer versions of a funeral service that one would experience at home. Owen obviously then describes the lack of any kind of funeral, pleasant in its nature, and in fact he says there will be nothing like that for the men, but only the terrible sounds of war. And within the third stanza, Owen explains that the only memorial they will receive, it will be in the form of a pale grief from their loved ones, using a drawing of blinds as an image to signal the end of a soldier's life. Okay, so that's what the poem's basically about. Please obviously pause this, add to your notes, and then let's move on. Now, form. So Owen has altered a very traditional form of sonnet, which is a Petrarchan sonnet, and he's done this more than once. Sassoon does this as well in his work, and it reflects the fact that traditional society has been altered irrevocably due to war. The poem is an elegy which is written to describe the life of a dead subject. However, the soldiers in this poem are yet to die. So what Owen is doing here is highlighting the fact that these soldiers are literally the walking dead. Furthermore, in the title, the use of anthem evokes this idea of glory or a national anthem. However, as we know quite a lot of Owen's work, this title is being used ironically, as the poem suggests there actually is no glory in war at all. So pause this, add to your notes on form, and let's move on. So let's look at structure, shall we? So the use of rhetorical questions forces the reader to consider the plight of the men, forcing us to understand the unholy situation they find themselves in. The use of rhyming couplets at the end of the piece highlights that we are blind in our thoughts to the war. It's using the two words which are rhymed to blind and mind to highlight to us that we do not think about their own issues. Also, the listing of negatives related to dying at battle reinforces how negative the poet feels about war. As this is a sonnet form, the use of iambic pentameter is used throughout, but again, rather than being used in a traditional way, or sometimes used to show marching, it's used in an ironic manner. But the use of iambic pentameter could create an incessant rhythm, which is similar to the incessant nature of war. And all the way through, Owen constantly contrasts the nature of burial at home to one here on the war front, thus creating a sense of division and intensifying the poor conditions for the men, even in death. Finally, let's look at the language, shall we? So this isn't everything. These are most of the things you need to know which could supplement your notes. The description of war in the first octet, so obviously when a sonnet is split into two different parts of 4 lines, creates a soundscaping effect. So all the imagery being used here reflects the sounds of war, which enables the reader to begin to consider the environment the men face. Using like cattle within the first line instantly impresses upon us the inhumane experiences of soldiers, who Owen believes are being treated as animals rather than human beings. Also, demented choirs of wailing shells personifies the ammunition, which not only suggests the weapons themselves feel the pain of war and reflect the actual scream which emits from a device, but the personification could also suggest how demented the men have become themselves due to the unholy nature of war. Each slow dusk obviously is suggestive of the slow death men face, whilst the drawing down of blinds highlights perhaps the home front attempting to ignore what is occurring, or symbolically representing the soldiers dying. Finally, pallor is reminiscent of death, creating the impression that the death of the soldiers has caused the girl to die in part herself, reinforcing the idea that we cannot escape the war. Okay, so that's everything you need to know to help you produce top mark pieces of analysis for this poem. Keep working hard, keep revising, and thank you for listening.